constructor. It is a special method. Constructor is a special method defined in the class. So constructor is also a method which is defined in the class. Constructor will have same name as class name. Whatever the class name we give, same name will be given to the constructor. So we are defining a method in the class with the same name of the class. We are defining a method in the class with the same name of the class, which is called a constructor. Good. Constructor will not have any return type. Constructor is used to initialize data members. Constructor is used to initialize the data members of the class. It is a special method defined in the class. Constructor will have same name as the class name. Constructor will not have any return type. Constructor will be used to initialize data members of the class. Right. Let us go to the next. I have public. Class is example. Then we are going to have a method with the name called example. If class is example, then we are going to have a method called example. Generally, if you say method, what will happen? Public void. This is how we define. Now, what is the difference you are finding? We are not writing any return type, void or integer. I am not writing anything here. Then class name, method name, both of them are same. Name of the class, name of the constructor, both of them are same. Name of the class, name of the constructor, both of them are same. Are you getting my point? Okay. Let us do some examples. Create a Apex class, student with a constructor. Create a Apex class. Start doing these examples. With data members. Create a constructor and I say values. Apex class employee with data members, create a constructor, create an Apex class, create an Apex class, product info with the data members, name, product code, price, start building one by one example. So what is the first example we have created? Public class. If class is student, we have constructor. Similarly, public class employee, public class employee. Upper list, public class upper list, public class account holder, account handler, quote line items, public class code item. This is how we got it. Then the core purpose of the constructor. What is the core purpose of the constructor? To initialize the value. Public. Public student. Some value I give here. Phone I give as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we have done? Create a class with the data member's name, age, phone. I created student class. Assign the value of name, age, phone. If I don't assign, what is the value of name? Null. Value of age? Null. Value of phone? Null. But we are calling this constructor assigning it. So what is the core purpose of the constructor? It is to initialize the value. Starting values of the data members are assigned using a constructor. Go to the next. Public class. Public string name. String name, decimal. Public employee. So create a class with the data members, constructor, and assign the value. I hope you are good with this. Right, boss? Class with the data members, with a constructor, and assigning the value. So last example. Public product info. Then create a method, public void no it. So this is how we have taken. name, product code, price. So we're going with the product info. Name, product code, price. Constructor assign the value, method in which we are performing the operation. So what is the difference you find between constructor and a method? Constructor will have exact name of the class. Constructor is not having any return type like void or integer or like that. Then constructor will be called only once. Method can be called any number of times, but a constructor can be called only once. Now let me give you that point here. Invoked only once. At that is at the time of creating a object. Constructor will be invoked only once, that is at the time of creating an object. Constructor will be invoked only once, that is at the time of creating an object. Method can be called a number of times. Method can be called a number of times, but constructor will be called only once. So what is the basic purpose of the constructor? Now, if you want to initialize starting values for the data members, we will use constructor. If you want to initialize the data members, we will go for constructor. I hope you are good. So still extension is there. Let us come back to the topic of creation of object again. I hope you are good with this. People are good. Create of class, data members, constructor, method. I hope everyone is good with this. Clear? Okay. Let us go to the next concept, creation of object.
Satish, can I ask one doubt before going to next?
Go ahead. Make it fast.
Like yesterday, you declared a name equal to something and last name, first name, right? Then what is the exact use of constructor?
Now, yesterday I took the method and created. Here I am defining a constructor. Now you will understand when you look at the object. That's the reason I am going for the concept of object in the middle of the constructor to understand that. Okay. To understand the difference between a method and a constructor, only we are starting this object concept. Right, boss? So once you're done with this concept, you'll be understanding it. So we have this public class example. Public. So I gave public example. Then I have given public void show. I have a class like this. So we want to understand what is a object and what we are going to do it. First, let us be very clear. Let us be very clear about what is a reference variable, what is a primitive variable. First, let us get very clear, clarity about reference variable and primitive variable. Now, first, look at the format. I have given integer age. These are the different variables I have created. I have created different variables. I have created different variables here. Data type. First, what is the data type in this integer? Age. What is the data type? Variable is. What type of variable is this? Primitive or reference? How can I say primitive? If data type is a primitive, variable is a primitive variable. Integer is a primitive data type. String name. Data type is a string, variable is a name. What type of variable is this? Primitive variable. Account ACC. Data type is account, variable is ACC. Account is a primitive data type? No. So what is this? Reference variable. Boolean flag. Boolean is the data type, flag is the variable. What type of variable is this? Primitive. This is a primitive variable. No. Contact. Now what type of variable is this? Reference. What type of variable is this? Customer. What type of variable is this? What type of variable is this? What type of variable is this? Other than primitive data type, if you take any other, other than primitive data type, if you take any other, it is going to be a reference variable. If you take a primitive data type, it is a primitive variable. Other than the primitive, if you take, it is a reference variable. Are you clear about this? Primitive variable, reference variable. Primitive variable, reference variable. If you take data type as a primitive data type, variable is a primitive variable. If the data type is not a primitive, that is a reference variable. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? Next. No. Data type. Is it a primitive? What is variable? Is it a primitive? Array. It is not integer. It is integer array. List of integer. Is it a primitive? List of. So all the arrays, list, set, map are called as reference variable. This is how we got. I hope you are good. Clear? Okay. Now we got a clarity about what is a primitive variable, what is a reference variable. I hope you are good. Okay. Now Primitive variable will store the data. Primitive variable will refer to the value. Primitive variable will refer to the value. Integer age equal to 10. String name equal to Ravi. Boolean flag equal to false. Primitive variables will store the value or refer to the value. Reference variable will refer to location. Reference variable will not refer to the value, it will refer to the location. Reference variable, they refer to a location. Reference variable, they will 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 refer to a location. Are you getting my point here? Reference variable will refer to a location. Now look at this. Whenever I say new, new is a keyword which will allocate a memory. New is a keyword which will create an object. New is a keyword which will create an object. New is a keyword which will create an object. New will create an object. New will create an object. New, then I'm going to call constructor. New followed by constructor. New is a keyword which will allocate a memory. Memory is allocated for whom? Memory is allocated for name. New is the keyword allocated the memory for data members of the class. Who are the data members? Name, age. Null. Once the memory is allocated, immediately what is called? Constructor. Example, what is this? Constructor. Once the object is created, immediately what is called? Constructor is called. What constructor is doing? Name equal to Satish, age equal to 30. So what constructor is doing? Assigning the value of name equal to. Now object created, values of the name and age are given. If a constructor is not running, what is the method we have? Name equal to null, age equal to null. So once the object is created, immediately what happened? Constructor is called. Now constructor is called at the time of creating an object. I told constructor will be called only once. It is automatically called when you are creating an object. Later on you cannot call it. Constructor is automatically called when you create an object. Okay. The next. How do you refer to this memory now? Again I have one more. New means again what? When I say new, memories, object is created. New will create an object. Name, then we got here. Constructor is called new constructor. When you call a constructor, right, this is how it is allocated. Right. Now, how do you refer to this memory now? Object is created, right? How do you refer to this object? I want to refer to the value in this object. In that object, whatever the value we have, I want to refer to the object. How will you refer? I have to create a variable. I need to create a variable which will refer to the object. Otherwise, how could I know where is that object? Object is created, data is kept. Now, how do you refer to the data? New has created an object, constructor has assigned the value. Now, I want to work with the data. How will you work? How will you refer? There is a reason. We need to create a variable for this object. What was that? So what is the class name? Example. Example is a primitive data type or reference. Primitive or non-primitive? Non-primitive. So if I create a variable for this, what it is going to do? It is going to refer to the object created by this. So what is that EMP? EMP is a reference variable referring to the object created by the new keyword. New will create an object. Whatever the object created by the new, that is referred by the reference variable EMP. Right. Now here I have EMP2. EMP2 is the reference variable which is referring to that location. Now, EMP is a variable referring to the location of object. It is referring to the object created by the new keyword. So, this object is referred by the EMP2. Are you getting my point? EMP1 is the variable, reference variable referring to the object created by this statement. EMP2 is the variable which is referring to the object created by this statement. So once the object is created, how do you refer to that object? By creating a reference variable. By creating a reference variable. Generally, the object is referring to, this variable is referring to that object. So we generally call this variable as object. Are you clear? Are you clear? So if you want to create an object, what is the keyword? New followed by constructor. Will create an object. How do you refer to that object? By creating a reference variable, we will refer to that object. I hope you are good. I hope you are good. So how will you create, boss? Equal to keyword So how many times it is going to be called, boss? How many times constructor is called? Constructor will be called only once at the time of creating a object. Now method we have to call it. Constructor will be automatically called. Method I have to call it. Constructor will be automatically called. Okay. Now let me give you the point. I hope people have got the basic idea about what is this object is now. It is a instance of a class. Object is created by use the keyword which will create an object. Once the object is created by the new keyword, once the object is created by the new keyword, constructor is automatically invoked. We create a reference variable to refer to the object created using new keyword. So what was that? What is the order? New keyword will create a new object. Once the object is created by new, the constructor will be fired and it will initialize data members. Then reference variable will be created for the class to refer to the object created. So, step 1, new keyword will be created. Step 1, new keyword will create an object. Step 2, once the object is created by new, then constructor will be fired and it will be initialized. It will initialize the data members. Reference variable will be created. Reference variable will be created for the class to refer to the object created by new keyword. Right? And all the members of the variable are referred using the reference variable. Generally, we call that reference variable as what? Object. Okay, in the general terminology, we call that reference variable as object. Basically, object is new, is the object. Okay, but whatever the object is created, we are referring that object with this variable. All this. I hope you are good with this. Clear, boss? Okay. Clear? Everyone has followed this? Okay. Let us understand this. File, new, Apex class. File, new, Apex class. Look at the system.debug, line 1. Dot debug. This is how we create. Now we created a student info, data members, constructor, nothing. Go to the debug. Now I am having student info. What happened? We created a object. Now I execute. I just created an object, I executed. When I executed, what happened? Line 1, line 2. So what is happening? Automatically constructor executed, right? When we created an object, whenever we created an object, automatically what happened? Constructor executed. Line 1, line 2 we got. But if you want to execute the method, what should I do? I have to call the method. Constructor will not be, constructor will be executed automatically, but if you want to call the method, we have to call it line by line. Who is calling? I have to call it. When you create an object, constructor will be automatically called. But method has to be called by us. How many times you can call a method? You can call the method n number of times. Method should be called by you. You have to call the method. It will not run automatically. Constructor will be automatically called. How many times you can call the method? Number of times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What was that? Okay, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. Constructor is called only once. Methods are called twice. Are you getting my point? Method can be called n number of times based on your requirement. But method will, okay, constructor will be called only once. The data members or the methods of the class will be referred using the object only. If you want to call the methods, method of the class, that should be called with the object. Object dot method name. Object dot variable. So if you want to print any data, look at the point. If you want to refer to any one of the members in the class, if you want to refer to the members in the class, how do you call? Object dot variable. Object dot method. All the members of the class are referred using object only. All the members of the class are referred using object only. All the members in the class are referred using object only. I hope you are clear. I hope you are clear. All the members of the class are referred using object. All the members of the class are referred using object. Any query on this? Clear for everyone? Clear for everyone? All the members of the class are referred using object. I hope everyone has followed this. Clear, boss? Clear for everyone? Okay. So let me create one more time. Okay. Now listen carefully. Global. I have this class I have created. Integer is a global, public, protected, private. If you want to, what I was supposed to do? Access. Create a object for the class. Then I'm saying a dot a value equal to. Any issue with this? No issue. So we are able to call global members of the class outside the class. This is the class. We are calling them outside the class. A dot b value equal to. B we say public, execute. We are calling them outside the class. We are calling them outside the class. No issue. No. What happened? So you cannot call protected members outside the class. It can be called only within the class or within the child class. You cannot call outside the class. Only within the class or outside the class. Exit. We cannot call it. Are you getting my point here? Right. So what happened in this case? What happened in this case? Boss, if you define any variable as a global or a public, we can call them outside the class using object. We can call them outside the class using object. But if we define any variable as protected or private, we cannot call them outside the class. Using object, which variables you can access? Using object, which variables you can access? Only global or public. Now within the class, no issue. Within the class, we can use them. Within the class, we can use them. There is no issue. But outside the class, we are trying to use, then there is a issue. Only public and global members can be accessed outside the class. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? Clear for everyone? So the point is, if you want to access any member of the class, it should be accessed using object. First, create a object for the class. Object dot variable name. Object dot method name. Object dot variable name. Object dot method name. I hope you followed this point. Am I clear? Clear for everyone? Let us do some examples here. I hope everybody followed this. Okay. So when the class will run? Class will run only when you create a object. Class will run only when you create a object. Class will run only when you create a object. Okay. Let us do this. Create a apex class. Employee. Method. Create a constructor. Create a method. Calculate. Which will calculate salary and bonus based on experience. Create an object for the class. Assign the value of experience. Complete this class. So how you create this? Public class employee. This is how we got. To create a constructor, I ask you to assign the value of name and city. Public void calculate. Then what we are doing, if this is how we have created. Then how do you execute this? Employee emp dot experience equal to 7. Then I'm calling emp dot. So what does it mean? Use the data from the emp and run the method called calculate. Use the data from emp, run the method called calculate. Use the data from emp, run the method called calculate. So what happened? So emp dot experience equal to 6. Run the method called calculate with the help of 6. Are you getting my point? So again I am giving emp dot experience equal to 10. I can call it number of times. Are you getting this? Am I clear with this? Okay. Now what was that? Object dot variable equal to value, object dot method. I hope you are good with this. I hope you have followed this. Clear for everyone? Clear, boss? Any query from your end? We'll try one more method. I hope everyone has followed this example. Creation of object is clear, right? Create a Apex class. Product name, price, code.
Satish, you mean to say to execute the class, the object should be created, right?
Exactly. Class is only a template. It will not run. You create an object and run it. Create a method which calculate. And return total. Create a method calculate, return total. Now, I told specifically create a method calculate which has to return. I told create a method calculate which has to return a value of total. Now, if I want to take any return value, if I want any method to have return value, if I want method to have any return value, I will mention it clearly. create a method calculate which will run the total. Create a method calculate which will run the total. Create a method calculate which will run total. Are you getting my point? Okay. So let us see how we create. Product info. Public decimal price void. Now why did I give decimal there? I told you to return total value. After performing this, I asked you to return total value. After performing the calculate method, I asked you to return total. I told calculate the total, return the total. So what is the total here? I mentioned clearly. I told if I have a requirement of running a value, I will mention it. I told very clearly here, you return the value. I told very clearly, you return the value. If I don't return any value, you will not mention. In case if you want any value to be returned, you will mention it. Create a method which will return the value. Otherwise, it will be void. If I mention it, you write a return type. If I don't mention it, it is a void. If I don't mention anything, it is a void. If I want any value to be returned, I will mention it clearly. You return this value. Right? Here I mentioned very clearly, I want the total value to be returned. There is a reason you are taking total. Okay. Look at this. This class, does it have any constructor? It is not necessary that every class should have a constructor. If you don't define a constructor, system will create dummy constructor. It is not necessary that constructor should be defined. If you don't define a constructor, system will automatically create dummy constructor. What it creates? Dummy constructor. How it will be? Dummy constructor. If you don't define any constructor, system will create a dummy constructor like this. It is not necessary that every class should have a constructor. If you don't mention a constructor, system will create a dummy constructor. I hope you are good. Okay. Let us go to the next execution. How do you execute it? Product info. Use some name iPhone. Dot. Dot price. Right. Why? Boss, if you have a constructor, using constructor I might have assigned the values. Right? Otherwise I have to pass the value, created the object, and I have set the value of the variables. Then I am giving decimal value equal to P dot calculate. Because when you say P dot calculate, it will calculate the value and give this value. Whatever the value it is giving, I am storing in this value. Are you getting my point here? Here you can see. When you say P dot calculate, calculate method will run and it is going to return the value of total. So wherever I am calling P dot calculate, here I am going to get the total value, which is stored in amount. Now, what is the value we are going to get here? When you say P dot calculate, it will give you 50,000. Total, return total. What is the total? 5 into 10,000, 50,000. So whoever is going to call, it is going to give you 50,000 value. That is stored in amount. Are you getting my point? If I am returning a value, you have to save that value. If I am returning a value, you have to save that value. That's why I took a decimal amount. If I am not returning any value, leave it. Previous examples are what? No return. Just calculate, print the output. But when you are giving a value, I have to catch that value, save it in a variable. Now execute it. This is how we are getting. I hope you are good with this. If you are returning a value, I will mention run this method which will return so and so value. You have to store that value and use for your logic. Are you clear? Now online, both your queries are clear. One is constructor, and yesterday somebody asked return type. What is the return type? Okay. Right. Any other queries? So one quick point before I go to the next.
Satish, before you close, could you repeat that execution partner for this, please?
No. What did I do in this case? I created an object. Right. Then I assign the values, product name, code, price, quantity. Then I call p dot calculate. When you call p dot calculate, by using this data, it will run a method called calculate. By using this data, it will run a method called calculate. Okay, when your calculation is completed, it is giving a value called total. Whatever the total value it is giving, that I am storing in a amount. Got it?
I got it.